Okay, let's talk about the Eagles home opener with a lot to like from our new RB1. Although, what was up with some of the play calling? And why did A.J. Brown call out the offense? Plus, even more injuries in the secondary with another player lost for the season. Yet there's reason to be optimistic with some recent roster moves, so let's break it down. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Alright, I'm a little bit late to get this up because I had some family stuff yesterday, although unlike me, this one dude proved that the early bird gets the worm, or something like that, and running back D'Andre Swift showed up ready to go to work with the Eagles hosting the Minnesota Vikings for their home opener. Having Mike Vick in attendance, Kevin Hart was there, as were several other celebrities, like Michael Buffer, who told everyone to get ready for something. The Birds also unveiled a pretty epic light show that, I'm not gonna lie, had me in serious FOMO mode before the game. Speaking of missing out, the Eagles announced that the list of inactives for the game would be Kenny Gainwell, Tanner McKee, James Bradberry, Reed Blankenship, Tyler Steen, Moro Ojomo, and Albert O, meaning running back Rashaad Penny was active, leading most of us, I think, to wonder how long until he and Swift get the ball. Except after winning the coin toss, offensive coordinator Brian Johnson elected to go with the I only know how to call pass plays approach, with Jalen Hurts hitting Devontae Smith for some positive yards before getting sacked thanks to the constant blitz the Vikes went with most of the night. Fortunately, Hurts converted a first down with his legs before getting Dallas Goedert fantasy owners at least on the board. I don't know, optimistically, at least it wasn't a goose egg. But it also wasn't a Slim Reaper night where number 6 should have had 6 on a 54-yard completion from Hurts, but Jalen underthrew him, winding up at the 10-yard line of Minnesota. Before finally, the 7th play of the game, Swift got a carry. That did absolutely nothing, but at least it wasn't until the 4th quarter like the Pats game. However, an unsuccessful Hurts keeper for 2 yards on 3rd down brought in Jake Elliott for a 24-yard chip shot, leaving most of us to wonder again, what is this play calling?
Okay, so that's how it's gonna be. Y'all want to play.
Well, it wasn't great, but I think the majority was also curious to see if Slay could lock down Justin Jefferson just like he did last year. But the answer was no, absolutely not, with JJ catching 11 passes for 159 yards on 13 targets, as the Vikings started the game with a couple Kirk Cousins to Jefferson connections before big old dancing bear Jordan Davis forced an incompletion with some pressure up the middle, causing a punt. Unfortunately, Hurts and the offensive play calling regressed on the second drive, if that's even possible, resulting in a quick 3-and-out, bringing Siposs on to punt, who resorted back to his old ways of lower than mediocrity, where the Vikings' return started looking very reminiscent of the costly Super Bowl punt return, except this time, thankfully, the unit forced a fumble to negate the miserable punt and subpar kick coverage, as safety Justin Evans punched it out and linebacker Nicholas Morrow jumped on it to recover. Okay, at this point, we're thinking, all right, we're going to capitalize, still just shaking off a little rust, yet that excuse doesn't work anymore, and Hurts just seemed to be off, taking a sack while missing his hot read on more than one occasion, by the way, and honestly, flat out not seeing the field well. Like on this play where Thomas Peterson pointed out, that's an easy 5+ yards, but instead Hurts decided to pull it. Okay, no offense, but even you could run through that hole. Of course, this is about when we started to see the is Hurts turning into a pumpkin comments, followed by one of the worst I'm not seeing the field moments on a 3rd and 16. Quite frankly, gift wrapping a turnover for the defense. I'm sorry, I have no clue what Jalen was looking at, and he could have very easily gone to AJ on this play, but we'll get to that. However, once again, the Birds offense were fortunate the D could bail him out, as nickel corner Avonte Maddox punched the ball out of Vikings running back Alexander Madison's hands, where Justin Evans was there to immediately recover. Unfortunately, Maddox ended up getting injured in the game, and Adam Schefter revealed yesterday that it's feared to be a torn pectoral, which would mean Avonte's season is over. Alright, obviously that's a huge blow considering the Birds already lost their primary slot backup in Zach McPherson to an Achilles injury, leaving Mario Goodrich as the next man up. But as far as the game goes, thankfully that turnover gave the ball back to Jalen, yet for some reason we reverted back to the designed QB run without handing the ball off, all while gaining a grand total of 2 yards on 3 plays.
Son of a bitch! You done messed up, Aaron!
Yeah, the play calling definitely messed up, but so did Jalen, or at least from what it looked like to me, as he had Boston Scott open on this play in what would have been a swing pass with several blockers set up. Although maybe it was another designed quarterback draw, in which case we'd blame BJ. Regardless, Jake the Great couldn't convert as he pushed the field goal wide right on a 55-yard attempt. giving the ball back to Kirk Cousins in good field position before Jordan Davis made his presence felt, absolutely blowing up Vikings backup center Austin Schlottman to register a sack. And JD was certainly a bright spot on the defensive front with an 85.7 PFF grade thanks to plays like that. Yet life didn't get any easier for Mr. Schlottman a few plays later as Jalen Carter came in saying, "Yeah, you're not blocking me, pal," en route to stuffing Madison for a 2-yard loss. Look, honestly, credit the entire Eagles D-line who made life difficult for the Vikings to run the football, where they accumulated just 28 yards on 9 carries in the game. However, it was Cousins again who kept the drive alive, finding this same weakness the Pats took advantage of in week 1. You know, the tight end over the middle of the field, hitting TJ Hawkinson on multiple targets before getting on the board with a 5-yard score and taking the 7-3 lead, leaving all of us just a bit concerned.
Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm!
Okay, maybe not that much, but it was alarming. Luckily, a dose of Swift Xanax calmed the nerves and steadied the Birds' offense, where Agent Zero got the ball 9 times on a 16-play drive that went 75 yards, culminating with a Jalen Hurts 1-yard rugby scrum for the first Eagles touchdown in the game. And leaving Thomas Peterson to share, the Eagles have maybe the strongest quarterback in the league, fast to center, and spend a lot of time perfecting the QB sneak. Last week, 4 other teams tried it, they all failed. This isn't an unstoppable play, it's just unstoppable when the Eagles do it because they're really effing good at it. I mean, quite honestly, it is amazing how easy we make it look. By the way, congrats to 10 of you who predicted the outcome for the autographed Swift helmet giveaway. Like I mentioned in my previous video, we'll be doing a drawing to determine the winner since we had ties, so tune into our live show on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, where I'll be drawing to see who gets the helmet. I've also got the names of the potential winners listed in the comments below if you're curious to check. But back to the game. After the Hurts plunge put the Birds up 10-7, the Vikes began marching down the field looking to get points before the half. And it looked like they do that when Cousins connected with Jefferson for a 30-yard completion, looking like Jefferson might have scored or went out at the 1-yard line. But upon further review, it was determined that Jefferson fumbled the ball over the pylon, resulting in a touchback and giving the ball back to Philly with 34 seconds before the half. Look, I'll just say that's a terrible rule, except for, well, in this case, I'm kind of in favor of it, you know, the integrity of the game and stuff like that.
Hypocrisy knows no bounds.
Alright, call it what you will, but we got lucky. However, Jefferson was even more upset after the Birds were able to run a couple plays to Boston Scott to set up a 61-yard try by Jake Elliott. And man, did he ever make that one close. But hey, it still counts, giving the Eagles a 13-7 halftime lead, which I think is fair to say Cousins didn't like that, and he also didn't like the way the second half started, with Josh Sweat terrorizing the Vikings O-line on a strip sack that was recovered by Fletcher Cox and returned to the Minnesota 7. And Sweaty J had himself a night, registering a 92.6 pass rushing grade, 8 pressures, 1 sack, and a 26.7% pressure rate, eventually leading to another easy tush-push score from Hurts to extend the lead to 20-7, followed by a quick 3-and-out stop from the defense before Jalen dropped a dime to Smitty with Minnesota in cover 3 for a 63-yard bomb to go up by 20. Okay, so honestly, this is about the point in the game where it should have been over. I know 20 points isn't insurmountable, but Desai's defense had Minnesota on a 3rd and long from their own 38 looking good until Josh Jobe got cooked by Vikings receiver Jordan Addison for a 62-yard score. And I don't know, maybe Jobe was expecting safety help on the play, or maybe it was all on him. Regardless, he has to make that tackle. However, at least Jalen and the offense resorted back to what had been working all game long, going with several handoffs to Swift until reaching the 4th quarter, when cameras picked up a visibly upset A.J. Brown who was unhappy about the lack of targets he'd gotten in the game. And Sirianni eventually came in trying to be the voice of reason, I'd assume, yet unsurprisingly played coy when asked about it after the game.
I don't know. I didn't see what was going on with that. We're just trying to manage the game.
You were part of the TV show that you kind of interjected there.
Okay.
What did you have to say to AJ and Jalen? I guess
As the conversations we have on the field are going to be private, and the conversations we have in our locker room are going to be private. Y'all don't need to know what was going on right there.
All right, that's fine. I understand you got to keep those conversations private. And Devontae Smith also said it's nothing to worry about.
That's part of being a competitor, man. You always want to be feel like you're part of the team, helping the team and things like that, man. Anytime something like that going on, it's not nothing, bad. He's not bashing nobody, man. He just, wants to feel a part of the team, wants to, help us. And I mean, at the end of the day, you grind with these guys all throughout the week. So when it's time to go out there on Sunday, Monday, Thursday, whatever it is, man, you just want to, be battling with your guys.
Yeah, I think it's just the competitive fire, and Jalen commented as well saying, "That's my best friend. We're going to continue to grow and put winning first. We set the bar very high for ourselves. We have to appreciate these wins. We're going to get better and better because we're going to work. We're going to hold each other accountable, learn from our mistakes, but in terms of us staying together and putting winning first, that's all that matters." And I feel like every guy on this team does that. Ultimately, I'd agree with Jalen, but I've also seen some people having criticism about AJ's hypocrisy when it comes to the whole situation he was interviewed back in January.
If you throw the ball to me 100 times, I'm going to want it 101 times. Me personally, I just feel like I can change the game, in any moment. I'm never the receiver to go on the sideline or to try to cause, problems on the sideline. I'm not that guy. I think that's what you can describe as a diva or whatever the case may be, but I'm not that person.
Which, okay, I see that, and like Derek Gunn said, for a guy who made it very clear publicly that it's not about him, they have a bigger picture of trying to get back to the Super Bowl and finishing what they've failed to complete this past season, that's a bad look on your part. Sure, I would have liked to see AJ handle it differently, but I also understand his frustration with play calling from Brian Johnson, as well as maybe Hurts not being willing to take a shot. Honestly, I think this is being blown way out of proportion, but let me know what you guys think about it in the comments. Ironically, or not, Hurts quickly targeted AJ in the fourth quarter before eventually hitting him on a 25-yard score, except running back Rashaad Penny was called for a more than likely necessary hold and negated the score. But then the next play should have for sure been 6 points, yet the officials either weren't watching or had AJ playing against them in their fantasy leagues because that looked like a blatant PI to me. Unfortunately, the drive became a complete failure after Jalen ended up taking 2 sacks, the second one really looking like QB1 could have stepped up into the pocket instead of running outside into the defender, taking Philly out of field goal range and forcing a punt, where Minnesota then had one of their best drives of the night on a 9-play, 86-yard drive capped by a all the way wide open KJ Osborne for a 10-yard touchdown. Okay, I'll admit, maybe I was wrong about Joe being ready. It seemed like he and Slay got mixed up, but still a terrible look and another example of getting beat in coverage. So with Maddox already out and Mario Goodrich leaving a lot to be desired, it wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles moved James Bradberry to the slot once he returns from the concussion, since I think we all remember the All-Pro was getting significant reps during training camp in that role, and then you can keep Job on the outside, plus let's not forget UDFA Eli Ricks, who's been impressive from the preseason, so if Job struggles, Pick 6 Ricks could get some action, but curious to know how you guys are feeling about the secondary and what alignment should we go with moving forward, because honestly, it can't get much worse. But like I said toward the beginning of this recap, when in doubt, dial 0, which is exactly what the Eagles offense thankfully did, as the 24-year-old got 7 carries for 63 yards, showcasing his uncanny vision and ability to get to the next level. Also, doesn't exactly hurt to have the best O-line, who certainly played like it in the ground game, as it was pointed out that Swift had 133 yards before contact Thursday. Yet hold on, don't take anything away from the ball carrier, since the dude still averaged 3.3 yards after contact, finishing with an impressive 175 yards on the ground, which is the most rushing yards for a Philly back since LeSean McCoy in 2013, which you probably already know this, but just in case not, that was when Shady recorded 217 yards on 29 carries in the famous Snowball. But despite playing like a superstar, Swift said he hasn't even scratched the surface. Well, in that case, I'd say Kenny Gainwell just got Wally pipped.
We're going to need to go ahead and move you downstairs into storage B.
Okay, sure, Gainwell will still get a solid amount of touches, but after that performance, Swift has to be your RB1 without a doubt. I mean, it'd be a huge mistake to go away from Swift after what we saw from him in this offense. Thankfully, that final score put the Birds up 34-21 with about 4 minutes remaining, although once again, Cousins was able to carve up the middle of that defense, finding Hawkinson for his second score of the game. And then with just about a minute to play, the Eagles recovered the onside kick to run out just enough clock before one final unsuccessful heave from Cousins resulted in a 2-0 start for the Eagles. Alright, overall, it wasn't the prettiest, but I think there's some positives you can take away from this game. However, it's no doubt the play calling is still suspect, and Jalen hasn't been as sharp as I think most of us would hope, but I'm not ready to just sound the alarms yet, because like Sirianni said,
we didn't play our cleanest game. I think the first week was a little bit of a more clean game for the defense, and not as clean for the offense, and a little bit vice versa tonight. So, we'll go back. It's, you're right. We're 2-0, and a lot of teams would like to be sitting at 2-0. And like I said, when you're in this position, you can really and guys don't know that we're not playing to the best of our abilities. You can really, that's where you can make a lot of growth.
And I agree, it may not always look pretty, but we got the dub. However, on the flip side, the secondary needs serious help and improvement, and or is going to have to be carried by the D-line. Plus, the question will be, how long can the linebackers hold up? Oh yeah, and let's not forget about the bevy of injuries injuries we've racked up in linebackers Nakobe Dean and Zach Cunningham, plus corners James Bradberry and Avonte Maddox, safety Reed Blankenship, Jordan Davis was also banged up, and then running backs Kenny G and Boston Scott are injured, plus Quez Watkins re-aggravated his hamstring that he'd been dealing with throughout training camp. Okay, obviously some of those are not too serious, but worth monitoring over the next couple days. Thankfully, the Eagles have 10 days off before taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. But I want to hear from you guys. Yes, it's a positive to win, but where's your concern level at right now for the team, and what are your biggest takeaways with 2 games under our belt? All right, normally do this on a Friday, but with me getting the video out late, we'll do the weekend picks today, where we started off pretty good with 2 wins and a push last week, but this week I'm going to go with Jacksonville plus 3.5 at home versus Kansas City. And give me the 4.5 points for Seattle on the road against Detroit, while I'll also ride with Justin Herbert laying 2.5 points in Tennessee. Yes, even with running back Austin Eckler doubtful to play. Honestly, the fact that I won last week means I'm probably due to lose this week, so I don't blame you if you fade all my picks. However, if you want to get in on the action, my friends at DraftKings have a promo where a $5 entry will get you $200 in bonus bets. So go ahead and check out the link in the description if you're interested, and let me know what your best bets of the weekend are. Also want to mention some recent roster moves from Philly, as it was announced that linebacker Rashaad Evans was released from the practice squad, as well as running back Trey Sermon getting waived from the injured reserve. So the question is, what is Howie up to? Although Adam Schefter shared that it was Rashaad Evans who requested his contract be terminated, since he has options from several other teams that he's currently considering. I mean, the fact that the Birds are already so slim at linebacker and losing another one doesn't make me feel too good, but the Sermon release was strange. I think the natural inclination for a lot of people is to assume that Howie's cooking, and I would certainly hope so. Perhaps a guy like a Budda Baker or Patrick Queen. However, if I'm being realistic, I feel like it'll be to add some veterans in free agency and try to make do with that. At least we've got 9 days to get healthy. This has been the Philly Special.